And we're live. As live as you can be in a pre recorded show.
Welcome, welcome to our candidate highlight. And today I'm Amanda Gibbs. I'm the comms director for LP Texas. And we have Nathan Polsky co hosting. Nathan, what's your job in LP Texas?
I wear many hats, so a little bit of everything.
And our wonderful candidate here, Ryan Woodcraft out of El Paso.
What's
Yay.
going on, y'all? I'm glad to be here.
Yay! We love you, Ryan. We love that you're somewhat back. We had some technical issues when we first interviewed you that I'm going to call 100%. That's a me issue. Um, Huge apologies for that. So this time around, though, we're going to make sure it's even better than before. And let's get this show running. So, Ryan, who are you? I know who you are, but they don't know who you are.
That's a loaded question, man. Uh, it's I try to stay away from labels, right? Somebody will try to always put you in a box. Um, but my name is Ryan Woodcraft. I live in El Paso, Texas. If you want to use labels, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a believer, I'm a baseball coach, and now I'm a politician. Um, I was getting so sick and tired of the way our local governments were handling business and our elected officials being super condescending to the voting populace. And I got sick and tired of complaining about it on Facebook and decided instead of waiting for somebody else to step up and do something, I would be that someone. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff I could tell you about, but I think that's what you're really getting at.
So, what are you doing about this? What are you running for?
So I'm running for county commissioner in precinct 1. That's the northeast and east side of the county for those that have been out here. And my top two issues are to lower our ridiculously high property tax rate. Depending on what metric you look at, we're third highest in the nation, behind Detroit and Milwaukee. And the other issue that I'm running to fix and or abolish is non-voter approved debt. Our local elected officials use tax anticipation notes or certificates of obligations like they're going out of business. Um, and and we, the taxpayers, are stuck with the bill for their frivolous campaigns. And I'm sick and tired of it. There are other issues that I would love to talk about, and I'm sure you will ask questions about. But those are the top two items that really kind of drew my ire. In addition to maximizing our property tax rates, our county commissioners and judge gave themselves a 16% pay raise on the last budget. Um, so our county commissioners now make $133,000 a year when our median income in El Paso is 51,000. And I think that's absolutely egregious. And I want to try to rectify that too.
So, tell me about this property tax rate. Now, I'm over here in Collin County, and I think my tax rate countywide plus city and school district is 1.23 cents per $100 evaluation. What does it look like over in El Paso to make it the third highest in the nation?
Yeah. So, Nate, your entire property tax rate for all of your taxing entities in the county were how much?
Um, 1.2 ish.
So that is what all of our school districts are at, give or take. We have 9 school districts in the county. I reside in the Socorro Independent School District, and that 1.2 ish is about what our school tax is.
Ugh.
Not to take into account the almost 50 cents for city, the 46 ish cents for county. We've got the medical district. You've got the community college, and so we're creeping up on $3 and over in some areas, depending on how you slice it.
So you're almost, if not more than double my entire county's property tax rate there.
Yes.
Man, how does somebody that how does a median average homeowner in El Paso afford that?
They don't. And that's really where a lot of our problems come into. Um, right. The city wants to spend all kinds of money on quality of life. And while I'm not
Mm-hmm.
running for city, I'm running for county.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these things get lumped together because the local governments aren't communicating. They're not talking to each other. One example is an item that lovingly referred to here as the multi-purpose center. The people that hate it will call the arena. It was passed on a quality of life bond almost 12 years ago at 180 million. It has never been built. We still have not finalized a location. There have been lawsuits levied against it for the better part of a decade. The county wants to put in something similar. They're calling it an open air amphitheater, so much smaller at a county park. We just had a private venture come in to put in something similar, privately funded, not publicly, in the Northeast. And now the University of Texas El Paso is asking taxpayers for $100 million to upgrade the football stadium, the Sun Bowl, to host similar venues and events. And so all of these entities are going after the same folks in the same pot of money. On average, the city of El Paso forecloses on anywhere between 12 and 15 homes per month for back taxes. If we assume that 50% of them are vacant, that's still putting 6 or 7 families on the street because they can't afford their property taxes. And this isn't, blue collared families. These are, upper, lower class or lower middle class families that are working multiple jobs. This is your single mom with 2 jobs and multiple kids. Like, there's a lot of these overlapping issues where if we just put money back into the pockets of our constituents, a lot of these problems would go away.
I have a random question that is not on here just because I'm comparing it to Harris County. Okay, so the commissioners are kind of under the county judge. Is it the same way there?
I don't know if I would say under, but yes, the judge is the leader of the courts.
Okay, so if
But
there
they all
were
have equal
some
votes.
sort of not the right word, natural disaster or emergency or something like that, would you play a part in that if you were elected?
Yes. So kind of going back to the certificates of obligation, and I'm going to take the long way around to answer your question. I am not a fan of debt in general, right? I'm not a fan of debt in my personal finances. I'm not a fan of debt in corporate finances. And I'm definitely not a fan of debt when taxpayers have to pay for it. But with general obligation bonds, at least the voters get a vote. And if they choose to take on the debt for that project, and it's the will of the voters, then I'm not going to stand in the way of that. The problem with certificates of obligation is the voters don't get a choice. The elected officials make that choice for them. And that's frustrating for me. 99,999 out of a million, I'm going to vote no on those. In the event of a catastrophic emergency, I will entertain the idea of a certificate of obligation. And by catastrophic, I mean earthquake that levels downtown. I mean tsunami that comes in Sharknado style, whatever, right? I mean, it has to be the most earth-shattering event El Paso has ever went through for me to put taxpayers on the hook for that. Everything else goes in a balanced budget or it goes in front of the voters in a general obligation bond.
Okay. Nathan was paying better attention because I'm in hurricane mode because hurricane season just started, and so we get to deal with a lot of Lena Hidalgo on our screens. So.
All right. So, how many people are running for which? You're running for county commissioner. Which place was that again?
Precinct 1.
Precinct 1. Are you running against just a Republican and a Democrat, or either one, or 3-way race, 4-way race? What's it looking like?
3-way race. And as far as I can tell, it's the first one in recent history for El Paso.
That's awesome. Have you met with any other candidates? Are any of them the incumbent? What sets you apart from them? I know I just kind of asked 3 different things there.
No, it's good. So the incumbent is retiring. He was the former chief of police, became the county commissioner, essentially has ran unopposed his entire career. And now that he is retiring, that has kind of opened the door a little bit. My Democratic opponent is his heir apparent. She is the Simba to his Mufasa. And it is not a a shy or unspoken of thing. Being an 80% Democratic county, historically speaking, that's how politics here work anyways. I have met with her. We have some significant policy differences, and that's why I would like to keep it, right? I never want to make it personal. We both very much so want to see our community move forward for the best of not just the government, but for the people, for the residents that live here. We just vary drastically on what the best way forward looks like. Her way is really more tax and spend. It's more debt, it's more taxing, it's bigger government, it's more services that are government provided, and we can't afford any more of that. And as much as I like her ideas, we can't fund them within the current budget. Our current budget is $601 million. Half of that is unfunded state mandates, which I know you guys deal with there as well. But we've got about a $17 to $21 million deficit to pay for the remaining part. So we're already upside down in unfunded obligations and then unfunded state mandates. And we can't afford to make government bigger. We can't afford more subsidies. We can't afford higher taxes. And that's really the crux of where we butt heads. My opponent on the Republican side is a former elected official. She served one partial term on city council where she voted to raise property taxes. And so, like most Republicans in Texas, she campaigns like a libertarian and governs like a Democrat.
Yep. And
people are getting sick and tired of hearing fluff. And so what sets me apart is I'm a political outsider. Almost everything about me and my background screams anti-status quo when it comes to El Paso politics. And the nice part is that does not make me beholden to developers. That does not make me beholden to Veronica Escobar and Judge Samaniego. I don't have to toe the party line because, to be completely honest, I don't want to be a career politician. I do not want to be a career bureaucrat. I want to serve the people of this community and not make my living off of them. I want to
be the change.
And change. I do. And I don't want to stay there forever, but I will stay there until the job gets done. And then I will step aside if I'm not beaten in a future race. And I think that's what sets me apart is I don't want to camp as a career politician. I want to come in. I want to get the job done. I want to make the taxpayers' lives better. And then I want to get out of the way.
So you're rather new to politics. Well, you're involved with the Libertarian Party for starters. But what specific skills would you bring to a county commissioner role that would set you, forward?
Yeah. So, man, great question. I talk about introspect on the fly. Number one, and a lot of people use this phrase as a tagline. The difference is I can prove it. Mm-hmm. I bring proven leadership to the table. The other candidates can't claim that. Academically, I have my graduate degree in leadership. From a life experience perspective, I spent 21 years on active duty, fighting in wars that I didn't necessarily agree with. Mm-hmm. Right. But when you are in combat or combat-like conditions, there are things that you have to do on the fly, decisions you have to make immediately that are literally life and death. The good news is I got very good at those decisions, looking at second, third, fourth order consequences and making the best decision in the moment that we could. Even better news, nothing in government is that serious. And so when we're able to apply critical thinking, when we can apply deductive reasoning, when we can have conversations with different entities, being able to have the discernment to pick through the fluff and figure out which direction we need to go is a skill set that I can bring to the table. Unlike my other two opponents, I am not born and raised in this community. And I don't say that from a negative perspective, but they flaunt it as a big positive. I've lived in 8 other municipalities in numerous other states. I've seen how other governments work. Mm-hmm. I've seen what doesn't work. I've seen what is absolutely atrocious. There are things as simple as roundabouts or traffic circles, depending on where you're from and what you call them, on how to navigate them properly. And El Paso gets it wrong. and they're death traps, right? They're
That's
accidents.
because roundabouts are just wrong, period.
I think most municipalities get them wrong.
I mean, that's a whole nother interview time on how to properly navigate a roundabout. But I'll tell you, we don't do it safely. We don't do it effectively. And even if we tried, most folks here don't pay attention and blow right through them and hit the artwork in the center of it anyways.
Nice. Which I'm
No,
assuming that artwork is paid for by the city or the county.
Yes, the artwork is paid for by the city. Fun diatribe. I also sit on the city of El Paso. I sit on the Bond Overview Advisory Committee, which is I don't want to say in charge, that sounds bad, but we're responsible for citizen oversight and transparency of the 2012 Quality of Life Bond. What I've since learned since being on that board is the vast majority of our capital improvements or any type of project that is taxpayer funded, 2% of that overall cost goes into an art project for that project. So anything, if we build a brand new rec center, 2% of the cost gets applied towards something art related. And the more I learn about it, the cooler I think the program is. I just don't want to use some taxpayer dollars to do it, right? That's a little frustrating.
Yeah.
But there's some goodness there to it. So yes, right, when somebody blows through a roundabout and hits a $500,000 metal statue of
one of a kind statue, by the way.
Correct. That's problematic, not just for pedestrians and other drivers, but for taxpayers and for the county or city budget.
And then the poor artist who spent their time making it.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you've attended several, if not many, county commissioner courts.
In person? No, never in person, but I watch online as much as possible. I do have a day job. So Monday mornings at 9 a.m. is not really conducive for me.
Gotcha.
But I can watch after the fact.
Okay. So, so with your prior experience being very level-headed and, you talked about analyzing the facts, what is your overall assessment of the other commissioners in how they respond to the public at large? Are they more voting based on their emotional responses, or are they more analytical in their thinking and decision making?
So 4 commissioners, 1 judge.
Mm-hmm.
The commissioner from Precinct 3 is very level-headed, very fact and data driven. I don't want to say that she doesn't take emotions into account, but she really looks at the hard facts and doesn't leverage emotion.
Mm-hmm.
The other 3 commissioners, I feel, are very self-serving and condescending. And when you disagree with them, they will make it very public on, well, what the voters need to know and what the taxpayers need to understand and what the people that disagree with this don't understand is, and they talk down to you like we're children, not the people that they were elected to serve and represent. And that is super frustrating for me.
So it sounds like what we need to do is clone Ryan 2 other times, I believe it is, so that we can have 3 of you running against these folks.
Or just find more libertarians in El Paso.
Yeah, my short-term goal is to change it from 4-1 to 3-2. Mm-hmm. And then the 3 people that vote against this are going to have to explain to the taxpayers why. Because right now, with a 4-1 vote, the 1 can dissent and the other 4 don't have to explain anything because it's going to pass anyways. Right? So whoever that tiebreaker vote is now has to look their constituents in the eye and say, I'm voting to spend $350 million of your money on walking trails at $1.2 million per mile. They have to explain that. I may still lose the vote, right? We may still have to fund that project. But if I can get the other commissioners to look their constituents in the eye and try to justify why they're spending that type of money, the voters in that precinct are going to take care of the business for me. That's not my concern anymore.
Okay, so you talk about your day job. Like, are you going to have to like cut back or quit your day job to make this your full-time job?
If elected, yes, I will have to resign from my current job, and those city boards that I'm a member of, to serve as a county commissioner. Yes,
Okay.
You're okay with that to make El Paso better?
100%.
Awesome.
That
Uh,
wasn't a list question.
hey, I think I've already gone way off the list questions here so far.
You know,
Uh,
but y'all, I don't even mind that, right?
mhm,
There's something to be said about truthfulness and authenticity
mhm.
when you can answer.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and I don't want to say your questions are simple, right? But they're not hard,
Yep.
right? Just be honest
Yep.
and be transparent. Answer with integrity. I don't. This is not a problem. Like, keep firing.
Yep. So this one's going to go more towards the political boundary side. Um, while when elected as a commissioner, what's going to be your approach to working across party boundaries and getting partisan support from the other parties?
Yeah, I don't have a choice, because as a libertarian, I don't have a choice but to work across party lines.
Hmm.
And if I try to, to granite pedestal and just lock my feet on everything, nothing will get accomplished. Um, everything to me is a good faith discussion, from budget conversations to recruiting, retention, and equipping our sheriff's department, to ensuring the courts are adequately staffed. Everything is a good faith conversation. And I can have my personal feelings, and we can have the job that we need to get done. What I like to tell folks is, I will never go back on my word. My grandfather taught me at a young age that when you look another person in the eye and shake their hand, that agreement is stronger than any written contract any government could ever provide. And so if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to follow through. And if I tell you I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that. Everything in between me saying yes or no is a good faith conversation, and I'll stand by the decision at the end.
I love that about you. I'm just saying. So, per our last conversation that we did not get to air, you had talked about having a hard time reaching the current person in the position that you are running for. Do you want to give us your little what you are going to do to make yourself more
Accessible.
out there to the public, accessible? That's the word I'm looking for.
It's a good word. Yeah. So, funny story. Even before I decided to run, the only way that I could get a response from the sitting commissioner was to do public comment at commissioner's court, because he would not respond to emails, would not respond to phone calls. And that was just kind of his method of operation. Funny enough, since our conversation last time, I went to an HOA meeting that he was present at, had a conversation with him, and he still has no idea who I am. Right. And I don't want to say that from it's not like from a false humility perspective, right? It was like, oh, I'm just trying to do. But if I'm a political opponent of your heir apparent, I would expect that you at least know who I am, right? And I had my name on my shirt. Like, I'm not hiding this.
Hmm.
Frustrating. We have the county commissioners have an office in the courthouse downtown. Each county commissioner has an annex in their precinct where county business can get conducted, with an office in that annex. I have never seen the sitting commissioner ever at that annex in our community. The door is always closed. It's always locked. And so the first thing I would do, because it's super easy, is to have either myself or somebody on my team in that office at a set date and time every week. And if Thursdays from 8 to 4 is that time frame, then so be it. If it's Monday from 3 to 6 for a staff, then so be it. I don't care.
Hmm.
But there needs to be a consistent time. Some good practices that I've seen in use. We've got a city representative that does a breakfast every Friday morning at the same Denny's at the same time, and he brings in guest speakers from city government. And generally, it's the same crowd that can make breakfast on Friday mornings. And he tries to do dinners on Wednesday nights, like every other Wednesday. The team and I will do some analysis on the constituency and figure out what and where works best, and then we'll roll with that. But the consistency of being in the public is what matters. Not just showing up to the big events, not just showing up for photo ops, not just showing up for X, Y, and Z, but being there with town halls or you name it. But let's just make it consistent where I'm available. And people don't have to come find me. They know where I'm going to be at, and they can just show up.
I love that. I wish that were the case for more officials.
You would think that would be common. It almost sounds like the current elected officials just don't want to be talked to. They don't want to communicate with their constituents.
Almost.
So each commissioner is different. I'll tell you, the commissioner for Precinct 3 does not operate that way. She is very good about staying involved with her constituency. The commissioners from Precinct 2 and 4 grandstand. I don't want to say they gaslight because that's probably the wrong term. But they're not helpful.
And if the key one that you're currently running against is the heir apparent of the current commissioner, you could probably safely assume that she's learning all of his tactics and is probably going to do and act the same way as him as well.
I would guarantee that because she's currently working as his senior policy advisor on his staff. So, if we want to talk about being ready on day one, she's definitely more prepared in that realm. But she's more prepared to do the exact same things that we're trying to get rid of.
Let's shake it up.
So, talk to us about transparency. Transparency and accountability. Once elected, you mentioned you want to be open to your constituents, but is there anything beyond meetings and stuff like that that you can bring to the table?
For accountability and transparency specifically?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, it's not a libertarian in party, but a libertarian in premise. Probably one of my favorite elected officials was Congressman Justin Amash out of Michigan. And something that Congressman Amash did after every single vote was publish why he voted the way he voted. Am I saying that I'm going to go on Facebook or X or Instagram and give a diatribe on the 30 votes that I would take every Monday? No, but I think it's important for the constituency to understand why I voted the way that I voted. And if that's an email, if that's a newsletter, whatever that may be, whatever the best way to communicate that, because not everybody's on social media, right? So how do we best communicate that? If that's at a weekly or a bi-weekly meeting where I talk about those items, then we can do that. But I should be able to stand up in public and defend the way I voted the way I voted. I can already, even going through the LP Texas convention, there was something, there were numerous things that I voted on that I thought about afterwards and went, ooh, I think I got that one wrong. Right? Like, I think I dorked that up. And so being able to own that. Because in a room of 150 delegates, not very often does it come down to one. On a commissioner's court of 5, it could, right? So being able to be held accountable for the votes that I voted properly and maybe the ones I got wrong, but explaining the thought process at the time and then making the conscious decision to move forward in the right direction, even if mistakes were made.
Yeah, totally own it. I love that. Nathan's asking all the questions, and I'm just gonna sit here and chat.
Praises. You just tell me how much you love me. I'm not even.
I can tell you how much I love you too, if you like.
I love you too, Nathan.
All right.
I told you that today?
Not today. All right. Well, Amanda, do you have any further questions? Any questions?
I feel like I've asked most of them besides like the final question, but I don't want to be done talking to Ryan.
Well, I do. If I can inject, Amanda, you had some questions that you had prepped that Nathan said were garbage,
Oh
but I
no,
think
they were garbage. They
I
were
think you should
total.
give me a shot. Hit me with some rapid fire, yes or no. On to the next question. Questions.
Here, let me scroll up in our Discord message to
Is
see.
taxation theft?
Yes.
All right. You can stay in the party.
Not kick him out anyhow. So let me see. I'm looking. Da, da, da. There was a super environmental thing, and I was like, I don't know about that one.
Well, he's already talked about the catastrophic environmental disaster.
Well, hey, if you want to talk environment, we had, I don't know how much you paid attention to West Texas politics, but we had Proposition K come through a year or two ago. That was while very well intentioned and very good natured towards environmentalism, would have completely crippled our entire economy on the premise of climate change. So if you want to go down the environmental role, like, we can do that too.
So, okay, here's kind of, and it could just be like not even relevant. But so I have friends who were like water conservation, an elected water conservation-y person in New Mexico. And he said something at one point in time that, they could cut off our supply to the Rio Grande. Okay. So, like, those agencies have to work together. But, like, one of the environmental questions that had popped up was, do you have a plan to address issues such as, like, water quality and waste management and renewable energy?
Do I have a plan? No, I don't. But from a county commissioner perspective, some of that isn't necessarily our purview, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at water management, right, the Rio Grande feeds from the Gulf of Mexico. So by the time it gets to El Paso, there's no water left. And so even our portion of the Rio Grande is going to come from the New Mexico side when they release the levee and that water flows. So I think it's definitely important, right, at a minimum, for our state governments to be having those conversations, but our county and local governments need to make sure that we're being good stewards of the natural resources as well. To me, that's just common sense. Renewable energy. Yes, I love the idea of renewable energy. I hate the idea of government being involved in renewable energy. I don't think government should be giving subsidies. I think if renewable energy was as important as people want it to be, then private industry is going to figure out a way to make it happen, and they're going to run government right out of the energy business. We get a lot of wind here, so wind turbines aren't terrible, but it's really sandy and they're hard to maintain and they're full of oil. So go figure. We're called the Sun City for a reason, right? So let's do some sustainable solar farms to help the grid, right? I know El Paso kind of runs on our own electrical grid here. We're not tied into the greater Texas grid, but we can still, and that's disastrous too, right? And we can point the finger at anybody we want to, but the infrastructure sucks and somebody's got to fix it.
Greg Abbott. That's who we're pointing at.
So while we're on the topic of renewable energy and the environment, what's your stance on nuclear? Do you think El Paso would allow nuclear if the federal government got, their finger out of it?
So I personally am a fan of nuclear energy. Let's do it. Let's go. Do I think El Paso will allow it? That's going to take some time. We have a Marathon refinery here that is in the news all the time for air quality and pollutants.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easy for folks with our line of ideology to make a case for nuclear over oil and crude oil and refinery. I think the harder sell is going to be those long-term impacts. And I don't want to call fear-mongering or scare tactics, because I think they're real concerns, but how do we address those from a safety perspective? In the immediate, no, right? Like, what do I think El Paso's gonna be like, hey, let's put a nuclear plant out in the middle of the desert east of us? I don't think there's a chance in the next 10 years.
There's
But
nothing else there, though. Come on.
But I think you could make the case when you talk about clean energy. I don't want to call it renewable resource, but right, we can improve air quality. There's a
Mhm.
lot that we can affect positively towards climate change and energy efficiency by making a relatively simple shift on paper.
Mhm.
I'll scroll some more
I'm gonna
That
let
was not
Amanda.
rapid.
on my trash questions.
I was ready for rapid fire. That's all right.
She wasn't.
No, listen, I was super nervous about this for some reason.
It's
Like I
talk
haven't talked to you 100,000 times. Hi,
or at,
Nathan.
or at all in like the past 2 weeks.
It's true. We've spent a lot of time together over the past month.
All right, so let's talk about then your actual campaign and your strategy, what you're doing. I know in libertarian circles, we typically have paper candidates, you have informational candidates, and then you have candidates that are really out there to win. What's your strategy, and what have you done, and what do you need help with?
Yeah, we're going for the win, man. I don't have the time or energy to half-ass this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. Um, we've got, I think looking at the numbers, there's like 140,000 people in the precinct. When you start looking at registered voters versus ones that actually vote, right, those numbers dwindle significantly.
Yep.
This precinct is 80% ish Democratic. Some of them are Democrats because they were raised as Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
And most folks that I talk to, they're only a Democrat on the surface, right? Like once you scratch the surface and really talk to them about what they believe in and what matters to them, the more the wheels start to turn about, maybe I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
right? And does that mean I'm going to get them to vote for me? Not necessarily, but if I can get them to think about why they're voting the way that they're voting, then that helps move the needle towards liberty. And I'm good with that. We're doing some of the standard campaign stuff that you're going to see in any campaign. I'm not sold on the return on investment yet, but we're going to do it. We have t-shirts with a great logo for our block walkers.
Mm-hmm.
We have yard signs that I took an approach that was a little bit different, where some folks will just have their name, their party, and what office they're running for. I have my name, what I'm running for, and the words lower taxes. Because I'm not certain that yard signs on street corners in front of houses actually draw voters.
They don't.
Well, what I am hoping is that in the 3 seconds somebody drives past my sign, they see Woodcraft and lower taxes and go, huh. And if they see it a couple of more times before they get to the ballot box on November 5th, maybe that can help register. I hate stickers.
Oh, you just.
I hate bumper stickers. I don't want stickers on my car. I love beer fridge stickers. I have them all over beer fridges. So what we did is we did magnets instead. So we took the same design that you would see on a bumper sticker and we put them on a magnet. So you can take them off. It doesn't necessarily damage paint or anything else to the vehicle. And surprisingly, those were a bigger hit than I thought they were going to be. I ordered 30 to begin with, and they were gone within a week and a half. And so we had to order another round of 30. We went with some smaller business signs because business owners are not going to put yard signs in their windows. So we ordered some smaller ones. And then we've got like your typical door hangers, although they're flyers for us, not hangers, because we're too cheap to get the hole in it. So we hand them out. But that's about the extent of campaign material. Everything else is talk to people. I'm not going to rely, while I may utilize tools like text messaging and mailers, I'm not going to rely on them for votes. Our strategy is to talk to as many people as we possibly can. Social media helps, flyers help, text messaging helps. But when you can look somebody in the eye or sit down across the table from them and talk to them about what matters and how you want to help solve those issues, that's what our real strategy is. When we look at the demographics, again, 80% Democratic. Even if I was in a two-party race against a Democrat, and even if I pulled all the Republican votes, I would still need 15% of the moderate Democrat votes to win. What we're finding out throughout this campaign is that there are far more upset moderate Democrats than there are hardline, status quo, keep the course Democrats. And so there's things in our platform and my ideology that appeal to the Democratic Party participants. Like, we can talk about the Jeffersonian Democrat or the JFK Democrats and some of the things that our ideologies align on. And sure, we may disagree on things like the Second Amendment and how you want gun control, and we could disagree on things like school choice or public or state funding for school. We can disagree on some of those things, but let's start with your property tax bill. And why are you paying between $8,000 and $12,000 a year in your property taxes? And if I could give you back $4,000 a year, what could you do with it for your family? And when you start to address those practical needs at the local level, political ideologies don't matter.
Yep.
We just want to get back to helping people. So it's going to be an uphill race, right? Like, in theory, the Democratic candidate has already won, because historically in this county, that's how it works. But we're going to make it hell for her to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Every
do
day.
you need block walkers to come
Yes.
visit El Paso?
Yes, absolutely. There's three things I tell folks that they can do. One, I'm a religious guy. I know not everybody is, and I'm cool with that. I love you anyways. But this campaign is now at the point where it's starting to take a bigger toll on my wife and my kids. And so what I ask is that you pray for us. In whatever tradition or religion you may hold, pray for protection, pray for peace, pray for wisdom, pray for discernment, comfort, grace, and mercy. I refuse to lose my family over an election. And so any help in that realm that we can get would be greatly appreciated. Number two, you can give. The message of liberty is free. Spreading it is not. We need t-shirts, and we need door hangers, and we need text messages, and we need phone bankers, and we need block walkers, and we need all of those things. Whether it's $1 or it's $100 or it's $1,000. If you have the financial capacity to give, I would ask that you go to woodcraftforelpaso.com/donate. And anything financially that you can contribute would be immensely appreciated towards advancing the message of liberty in El Paso. The third thing is you can go. Maybe you're not religious at all, and maybe you're not in a financial state where you can give monetarily, but you have influence in your spheres, in your circles. So I would ask maybe to be a social media ambassador and like and share our posts. Maybe you do have the capacity to come here for a weekend or a week. I have a single spare bedroom. I will give you free room and board and free food. If you just, and if you've eaten food in El Paso, right, like, it's going to be good, right? It's going to be good. Come on out, knock on some doors, pass out some flyers, wave some signs. Whatever that you can do to spread the message of liberty in this community, social media, physical action, you name it, we would ask that you do that as well. Any three of those that you choose to do, I would ask that you still go to the website. If you choose to donate, you can go to the donate tab. If you choose to volunteer, you could sign up and how you would like to volunteer. Or if you just want to shoot words of encouragement and say that you're praying for us, you can do that in the contact section. There's a box there for contact. All three of those will add you to our mailing list. And so even if you just do contact, like, hey, I'm praying for you, love you guys, you put your email address in there, once and or twice a month, you will get an email from this campaign telling you where we've been, what we're doing, and how we're spending the resources that you donated to this campaign to reach others in El Paso.
That's an amazing thing to do, because a lot of times you don't get that. Like, you just give your $5 and then you hear nothing else.
Yeah. So you already mentioned your website, woodcraftforelpaso.com, and the very specific link of /donate, which everybody needs to go to and donate now.
I'm going to send it to Lars, just so you know.
Lars donated $100 to my campaign. Can I brag for a second?
Again.
Can I brag for a second?
Yeah.
No, you're not allowed to brag on this at all.
Lars Mapstead, presidential nominee or presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, supportive of our campaign, donated $100. Dr. Charles and Lisa Belay, presidential candidate for the Libertarian nomination, donated $100 to our campaign. And I have the endorsement of the presidential nominee for for the Libertarian Party, Chase Oliver. 3 presidential candidates out of the 8-ish that ran support this campaign.
That's awesome.
From various walks of libertarian ideology. Not so much on the ANCAP side, Nate, but I think I got you in my corner. So you run for president. I'm going to add that to the list as well. Three presidential candidates believe in what we're doing here in this community and supported this campaign in one way, shape, or form.
Okay, so I'm going to do a little shop pitch here because you talked about the status quo. Have you seen the shirt that I put on the LP Texas shop that says "Fight the Status Quo"?
I have not, but I have not looked since before convention, so I'm gonna go check.
Yeah, I wanted to put a different F word, but then I was like, I need to be a little classy. So fight the status quo.
All right, so it looks. I've also got your Facebook. Looks like it's Woodcraft for El Paso, and your X. The symbol on our
Twitter. It's Twitter.
It's still Twitter. It's still the bird.
I call it Twix.
Twix works. I love Twix. I see all those polls all the time. Do you still call it Twitter or X? And it's 9 times out of 10 still Twitter.
Well, and with Twix, you can have left Twix and right Twix, but it's still the same either way.
There you go. And for that one, looks like we've got Woodcraft 4 EP. So
the number 4, not the word. The number 4.
Number 4. So Amanda, do you have any more questions? I know you would keep Ryan on here for hours if you could.
Yeah.
Ryan, do you have anything else you want to let us know? Let all of the viewers know. Go for it.
Well, for you two specifically, thanks again for having me on. I know we got a practice run right after the LP convention, but I know I say it a lot, but I never want it to lose its meaning. I legitimately love you guys, and I don't say that facetiously. Like I literally love you. For everybody watching, at this point, you're probably at like minute 55, 56 of a YouTube video. And so if you're hanging out at the end, I really appreciate you hanging out here with me. Getting to learn a little bit more about me and the campaign, some of the things that El Paso is struggling with, but the vision for El Paso that we have moving forward. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that if we can turn this blue county yellow, the message of liberty is going to spread like wildfire throughout the rest of Texas. And I would love for you to be a coalition partner with me in that endeavor. So thanks for watching. Thanks for getting to know us. Hit the website, hit the social medias, and let's get after it.
Let's do it.
Ryan, I do want you to let your wife know that we appreciate her lending you to us.
I will. I'm going to share this video with her, and then that way she can hear it for herself.
Okay, she is an amazing woman to put up with this.
I don't deserve her in any capacity. God is good.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Ryan, thank you for putting up with us twice now. Again, sorry about the practice run. Thank you, Amanda, for co-hosting here. And everybody stay tuned. We've got more candidate interviews coming up in the future.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.